Well, howdy there, folks, and welcome into today's video. So this is going to be a straight talking video, okay? I wrote down some notes here on my little notepad to kind of keep me on track in this video. But today we're talking about if the stocks I own keep tanking into 2022, what is my plan, okay? Now, I think this is a very important video because not just to hear kind of my perspective on this subject, right? As somebody that's gone super heavy in stocks and the heaviest I've been in years in terms of my cash levels depleted into these stocks because I believe they're going to boom, okay? Not just from that perspective, but I think it's important to kind of think about, like, do you have backup plans on backup plans? I think the backup plan needs a backup plan many times in the stock market. And so that's something I always try to do. I always try to run through different scenarios of, you know, what if this stock goes up a ton? What if this stock goes down a ton? What if my entire portfolio goes up way more than I expect, way down way more than I expect? What would I do? How would I handle that? Those sorts of things. So I'm prepared for any sort of situation in the market at all times. Hey, if my biggest investment drops 50%, here's my plan of action with that. If my biggest investment goes up 200%, here's my plan of action with that, so I'm not really caught off guard in these different situations and things like that. So hope you guys enjoy this. Hope you learn a little bit from it. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to this channel, guys. Now, first off, I think we got to address this right at the top. What are the chances the stocks continue to tank? Okay, and when I say stocks, it's obviously we're not talking about the large caps, right? And I spoke about those recently. I think there's a chance those could sell off in the front half of 22. A little bit, like maybe not crazy sell-offs for big large caps, right? But some, okay? I spoke about that recently. I think there's a chance of that, okay? But what are the chances a lot of these small cap stocks I've been investing very heavily in the past 6 months, what are the chances they continue to tank in 22, okay? So first thing we got to think about is why have a lot of these stocks tanked, right? Well, a lot of these stocks tanked because everything that was a smaller market cap has kind of gotten grouped together over the past 6 to 9 months. And it's just, they've all pretty much been down. Like, it's hard to find any small caps that it's like, wow, this one's doing so amazing. Like, no, like the majority of them, regardless of their business model, have been devastated. Part of that, a big part of that is because we had a bubble, essentially, that happened with a lot of the smaller cap stocks, a lot of the pre-revenue companies, right? And this sent these stocks up to all-time highs in January and February to some ridiculous levels, right? And eventually that had to end. It did end. And since then, it's just been vicious for countless stocks, okay? Now, here's the thing. You got to decipher between the stocks that are, you know, they don't really have it like that, right? And the companies that actually do have substantial revenues and actually do have impressive growth rates and those sorts of things versus the companies that are super speculative and, you know, who knows if they ever become anything, right? Because they're not even putting up any type of big numbers, right? There's a big difference between companies that are putting up 9 figures or 10 figures of revenue versus companies that are like pre-revenue or like minuscule revenue companies, right? Huge difference between those, and I think we have to decipher those, okay? So in terms of the chances that these type of stocks continue to tank in 22, I think it's a very, very low probability. A lot of those stocks, a lot of folks have tax loss harvested on. A lot of these stocks have already gotten out all the weak hands because if you've been thinking about selling those stocks, more than likely you already have done it now, right? You've already looked at your account and you already said, well, I got some gains, let me write off some of these losses, right? And if anybody's been concerned about these stocks, they've already gotten out. So in 22, I think it's just going to be really, really hard to find sellers for these stocks, right? Really, really hard to find sellers. I think even in the algorithms, if you want to talk about algorithmic trading and those sorts of things, I think even, you know, the machines are going to have trouble selling any of these stocks. Never mind humans making a sell decision. Because if you, like I said, if you have been thinking about selling these stocks, you've already made that move, right? You've already made that move because it made sense to make that move now rather than wait till January or any month beyond that, okay? So when you have that happen, and you also have simultaneously a situation where you have this, immense amount of money that's on the sideline, right? Waiting to come back into these stocks, which is something that happens all the time with tax loss harvesting. People sell, they have to wait their 30 to 60 days, depending upon, you know, when they bought that stock and things like that, right? They wait their 30 to 60 days, they buy back in. That's one of the reasons, you know, you see very often January can be a great month for stocks, right? Because you have those folks that maybe tax loss harvested, went ahead and funneled that money elsewhere. And you've had a divergence in the market where some people have had some incredible gains in the front half of 2021, right? And in large caps, right? And they're like, oh, now I got to owe the IRS all this money. Let me just sell off, blah, blah, blah stock, buy back in a few months. So that makes a situation where it's very, very likely these stocks start to thrive as inflation starts to come down in a massive way throughout 2021, which I think will happen. As that starts to come down, that's been one of the worries about the smaller cap stocks is, oh my gosh, inflation's so crazy. A lot of these companies are going to be devastated because of that. I think in 22, inflation will start to decline, not from a perspective of necessarily go negative, although that is possible in the back half of the year, in my opinion. It's just that rate of increase is going to slow substantially throughout 22, and that is going to be something that the market looks at for small cap stocks as a very, very positive thing. Okay, so I don't think it's a very high probability that a lot of these stocks get hit. I don't think it's a very high probability that Tattooed Chef's also trading at 11, and Corsair is trading at 17, and Honest is trading at 6 or 5, and STC is trading at $1, and the Planet's trading at $2 or $1, right? Or we could just go through all these different stocks that have been hammered. I don't think it's a very high probability those ones continue to get hammered in 22. Okay. But for this video, obviously, we're going to say, what if this does happen? What is my plan? So first thing here is, it's very important. I still have some small cash left, okay? I have maybe, a few $100,000 left of cash. So I'm not like out of cash, but I am extremely low on cash, okay? So I'm not out. So I do have some money that if, let's say, hypothetically, these stocks continue to drop in January, continue to drop in February, I do have more money I can flush in them, but it's not a whole dang lot, okay? I'm the least cash heavy I've been since December of 2018 in terms of percentage of cash, okay? December of 2018 was a time period, it was like, I felt like it was like shooting fish in a barrel, and I feel like it's like that right now, not for all stocks in the stock market. In December of 2018, it felt like it was shooting fish in a barrel for any stock. Right now in this market in December of 2021, it feels like shooting fish in a barrel for small cap stocks, okay? And even some mids, but mostly small cap stocks. Feels like shooting fish in a barrel. I feel like there's money to be made all over the place. It's just like, where's the best place to put my money? And so during that time period of December 2018, it was, I got really extremely low on cash. I was deploying every dollar I possibly could in the market. And other than that time period, this is the lowest I have personally been on cash. Because at the end of the day, if I see crazy deals in the market, I'm going to make some dramatic decisions. Usually I like to be 10 to 30% cash in most normal markets. Getting down to 10% if I'm buying stocks super heavy, right? Up to 30% if I'm having trouble finding deals anywhere. This market recently has presented me a ton of great deals, in my opinion, for small cap stocks. And so in that sort of market, I'm going to deploy money, and I'm going to flush, every penny I can into these stocks. And that's exactly what I've done. Now you can make an argument, maybe I've went too heavy too soon, and these stocks continue to tank in 22. And like I said, all these stocks I've been buying, they just keep going down, and, Corsair is at 15 and Tattooed Chef's at 10, blah, 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 right? So that's always a possibility. I just don't think that's very realistic. And so I do have some cash around, but it's not a lot. And I'm the lowest I've been since December of 2018. Okay. Now, next thing, if I needed to raise some funds, I could, I have 3 houses. One of my houses I hardly ever use. I use it as kind of like a storage house and for like a Hungry Bowl office, and only like 2 people work out of that. And that particular house is probably worth about $1 million. So I could sell out of that house, take that money and go ahead and deploy that into the market. So that's something I would consider in the springtime if these stocks continue to tank, right? And I'm like, man, that's a lot of money I could just, flush into these stocks. At the end of the day, I really like that house. It's in a great area that I think will continue to appreciate over the next decade, if not next 2 decades. And so I wouldn't love to part with it, but at the end of the day, if these stocks continue to, even now, I can make an argument that the money would be much better placed in a lot of these stocks that I'm buying here recently versus in that particular house, right? And so that's something I could do to raise funds, and that's kind of something I'm considering, right? You say, well, you could always rent out the house or something like that. That produces you very small amounts of cash flow over a long period of time, right? And if there's a situation, right, where all these stocks just continue to tank and it's like, this is insane, like pure insanity, it makes a lot more sense to just sell that and not have to worry about the little bit of rental money I could make from that house each month, right? So That's something I'm absolutely considering. Next thing I would consider if stocks continue to tank in 2022 is to buy some 2024 call options. Now, I've already started buying some 2024 call options in many various stocks. Let's see. TTCf, I've already started buying 2024 call options, which means those call options expire in January 2024. And when it comes to this, I've been buying some out of the money. I've been buying some in the money. TTCf, honest. If I recall, I think I bought some SDC. I have some Corsair calls, and I even actually have some Win calls as well. I do have some Dropbox calls, but I've had those for quite a while. I have some Facebook calls. I've had those for quite a while. And I haven't gone that crazy on call options, right? But the sillier and sillier the pricing gets for stocks, the more it makes me want to go ahead and buy call options in stocks, right? Because, pricing can't last forever, right? No different than, I look back at the market last year in in 2021, actually, in January and February, and I'm like, why was I not buying puts on so many of those stocks that I was looking at? And I was like, these stocks are trading at silly levels. And now, hindsight's always perfect, but I'm like, I looked at so many of those stocks back then, I was like, this valuations are getting stupid on these stocks, right? And you can never short a stock based upon valuation, but you can buy put options based upon valuation. And now I look back and I'm like, why was I not doing that? And so if I think about a lot of these stocks I've been buying, they're already at silly levels, right? And that's why I've started buying call options. But if the pricing was to get even sillier, I would have no choice but to, honestly buy some call options, some in the money, out of the money, depending upon how much I want to take risk. If I'm buying way out of the money, there's a lot more money to be made there, but you're also taking a lot bigger risk, right? What if that stock doesn't move huge over the next couple of years? The thing I like about 2024 calls is I have time to play with, right? If these stocks continue to tank in January, which once again, I don't think is super realistic, but if it happens, I could look and I could say, well, I got 2 years for the stories to play out with these stocks and the money to flow back in and boost these stocks up to, much higher levels. So, Win's an interesting stock that I've been, I bought actually some call options in Win today. Win's in an interesting position because obviously it's a travel related company, very, as Roni, I think, so here's my opinion on Rona. When it comes to the Rona, I think in the springtime, we're going to be back to life as almost normal. I think by summertime, mask mandates and all those sorts of things are going to go away, even in states and places that you would think they wouldn't go away. I think that's going to play out like that. I think the numbers are going to peak in January. I think they'll start coming down in February and go to really low levels as we get further into the spring. And then the Rona will be a thing of past. That is my personal opinion. I'm not a doctor. That's just what I foresee happening. Okay. Now, if that scenario plays out, obviously, that's going to be really, really good for Win. Because look at how busy Win's been, the Las Vegas properties have been, even during this whole situation, where on the Strip, it's mask mandates and all that stuff, right? And look at how busy it's been, record month after record month after record month in Vegas, right? And so imagine when things are really back to normal. Imagine how busy the properties will be and how busy Vegas will be. Not just that, the Boston property, from my understanding, is putting up some crazy numbers. Not just a Boston property, Macau is key. Macau, as the numbers start to shrink as far as Rona goes, Macau should open up more and more. And by the end of 2022, if not by the middle of 2022, Macau should be back to fully open, in my opinion. And this is beyond a huge thing for Win stock price, okay? Because as soon as that happens, the month-over-month comps start to go up and up and up. The year-over-year makes them look like a joke. People start coming again. The tourists start coming. The money starts flowing. The properties go from massive cash flow losses to massive cash flow gains, profits, right? And all of a sudden, net income for the Macau properties go from massively negative to massively positive. And that's when you get a huge ramp up in Win stock price, right? And you could see that stock all of a sudden at $140, $160, $180 in a very quick amount of time. And if you think about how cooped up everybody's been in China, right? It's been actually, worse, I would say, than here in the United States. And especially, people haven't even really been able to go to Macau the way they would really want to go to Macau, right? If you think what has happened in the United States and what's happened with Vegas, that same thing, exact thing, will likely play out in Macau, where they'll have a massive influx of people coming into Macau in the back half of 22 and throughout 22, and then into 23 just being a crazy year for Macau. And the next thing you know, Wynn's putting up numbers that you just, you can't even believe some of these numbers, okay? Now, the risk with that, obviously, is, we don't ever get out of this situation. It just goes on forever, and they keep Macau somewhat closed down like it's been. I don't see that playing out that way, just flat out. I don't see that playing out that way, and I see there being a massive travel boom in China that will likely benefit Macau in a massive, massive way. And so that's one I've been playing some call options on. And like I said, with the others, I'll be willing to play those as call option plays. TTCf will likely start to become profitable in 23, which is going to be a huge boost up for that company, as a lot of investors won't usually invest in a company that's losing money. And as soon as TTCf starts making money on the bottom line, plus they have those insane growth rates, people are like, oh man, I got to consider this stock. And as the chef gets bigger and bigger with their revenues, right? Think about 23 for this company. 2023 for TTCf should be a year where they do, I don't know, I mean, we'll see. It could be $400 million in revenue. It could be $500 million in revenue. I mean, there's many different numbers being thrown around out there for 2023. But if that's a profitable year with that sort of growth, and those numbers are going to become undeniable. That's the thing. As you scale bigger and bigger, the numbers become undeniable, and no one can say anything about them anymore. It's like, dang, they're just a beast, man. They're just putting up great numbers. And when you got a great balance sheet, and you're proving this out year after year after year, no one can say anything. And then you get the analysts. Analysts, there's going to be, at this time next year, there's going to be 5 to 10 analysts that are covering TTCf stock. In 2023, there's going to be a lot more. So when I look at TTCf, like that's just, like I said, anything can happen in the short term. Maybe it goes down, but as far as my full faith in the company over the next several years, it's there. And as far as the stock price goes, everything's lining up exactly how it should with that particular company. So, that's what I'm looking at. Corsair Gaming has just been, hammered. It's super cheap on a valuation basis. And, as soon as things lighten up from the GPU side, I think that's going to be a big boost to Corsair Gaming. And then all you need is one big game all of a sudden to come in the market, and all of a sudden you got the hype again. And there's been a lot of new gamers that have come into the market, throughout this pandemic, and those folks aren't going away. Those folks will be here to stay, and with every new generation, there's new gamers that come in. Streaming is just getting bigger, so the Elgato brand is the most well-positioned to thrive in the hardware streaming space you're going to find out there. They actually have their own beautiful section now at Best Buy stores. If you go into your local Best Buy, check out the Elgato section. They have their own section which has their face cam and their microphones and their lighting and everything like that. And that company's just in a great position for the next couple of years. And so that's another one that I think is just going to be, over the next few years. Honest Company, another one that's just got massive upside. SDC, as long as they fix their cash flow situation in 22, you want to talk about stock that has more upside than all those stocks I just spoke about, it's SDC. So anyways, that's definitely a play I'll be doing, and I'm already starting to do. Next option up here that I could definitely pursue in 22 is selling put options, okay? Selling put options on some of these stocks that I've been speaking about here, which is essentially a strategy where I can generate some premium selling these put options, right? And let's say the stock doesn't go down. Cool, I just get to cash out with that premium. Now, let's say the stock does go down. Well, I've committed to buy that stock at a cheaper price, right? And so I could do, sell put options or write put option contracts at, $17.50 on Corsair, right? Well, as long as Corsair doesn't go down to $17.50, I get to just collect that premium. Now, let's say it goes down to 17 or 16 or whatever. Okay, now I have to buy that stock at that price, but I also made premium on it. And so it's not the end of the world because I already thought that stock was a great deal as it was. And if it goes down a bunch, I could definitely just make a bunch more money on that, right? And so that's kind of a thing of beauty there. I could also do that with, obviously, the Chef. I could do that with Wynn. I could do that with many other various stocks that I think there's a very low probability they're going to go down much more. And if they do go down more, I'd be happy to buy. And in the meantime, I could make that premium money, which is pretty nice, and it produces some good cash flow there. So that's certainly another possibility for me if, that is, keyword is if, these stocks continue to tank in 22, which once again, I think is a pretty low probability. But as with all things in the stock market, you have to play it from a probabilities perspective. Risk reward with stocks. I'm a huge fan of poker. I've become a huge fan over the last few years, and there's just so many similarities I see between poker and being a high level player in poker in the stock market, and trying to weigh risks, because every single stock comes with risk, and trying to know when to put your chips on the table and say, okay, I'm going big here, and if things were to go the wrong way, I'm willing to accept that, right? If I know the odds are strongly stacked in my favor, I have to be willing to put my chips on the table. Because if I don't put my chips on the table when there's a high probability things are going to go my way, when am I going to put my chips on the table, right? And so, you gotta put your bets in when you feel like there's high probabilities of you winning, right? And low probabilities of you losing. If you still lose, I can always accept that. What I can't accept is if I see great deals and I'm like, I'm not going to buy that because it could go lower, because that always hurts me the most. That always hurts me the most, to be honest. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you got some good value out of a video like this. This is a educational video plus kind of my plans in 22. Much love as always. Let me know if you enjoy video like this. I can do more kind of teaching videos like this in the future where I'm covering a strategy I'm kind of implementing over the next year and just kind of giving different points out there. Much love. Don't forget to smash and subscribe and have a great day.